Working with multiple UV islands in any 3D application is oftentimes a big challenge. Having multiple UV islands on your texture maps is going to produce seams, very visible seams inside the texture map. So we want to try to reduce that from happening as much as we can by combining or sewing UV islands together to resolve those seams. I have constructed a very simple cube here, and this is going to be, at the very end of this process, a really awesome looking little wooden crate, okay? But I need to generate some UV maps for this crate, because I want to go over into Photoshop and paint a whole bunch of texture detail. I want to put some like little wooden slats on there, maybe a cool little logo. So I really want to make it customized on each side of my cube. So I need to generate some UV maps. One of the strategies that I like to employ when UV mapping inside of Modo is I like to isolate. I like to isolate each plane to make the tools work a little bit more simply and to help my brain kind of process what I'm seeing. So I'm going to select all of those polygons on my crate and hit Shift H on my keyboard to hide everything else. Let's go over to our UV projection tool, and I want to fire off an Atlas projection of this bad boy, and that's what we get, okay? Now, the Atlas projection did a pretty darn good job, and it did some really good things. For example, the face of this entire cube, or this entire surface, is looking pretty good. The proportions are good, the size is about good. This inside cube, also looking pretty good. The orientation's right, the proportion is generally right, but where it went wrong, and what it didn't do a really great job of doing in unwrapping are these guys, okay? It's completely ripped all of these polygons apart from each other, and I need to go back and combine them and attach them to either this guy or the faceplane. Remember, more UV islands, separate UV islands like I have here, are going to produce seams. I don't want seams, or at the very least, I want to reduce the impact of the seams on the final design, okay? Now, let's think strategically about this for a second here, okay? Now, we have this wonderful UV island that represents kind of the face plane, or the faceplate, if you will, of this part of my crate. Now, if I was actually constructing this little wooden crate, this polygon here would definitely be attached to this polygon there. This would be one board. This would be one board, so it makes sense in my mind that they're connected to each other on the UV map. I don't want a seam running down this edge. Okay, I don't want to see a seam on my texture map. When I'm done. So if I was to connect both of these, we wouldn't see that seam. We can bury a seam for this object, for the texture file along over here, because in reality, this center board is going to be a piece of plywood or maybe some vertical planks. So it makes sense that this be a separate texture file, and we can definitely mask and reduce the impact of the seam if this center one is disconnected from everything else. Point being is that we need to go in and connect all four of these individual polygons to this face frame. Thus enter the Move and Sew tools. The Move and Sew tools are going to facilitate this joining, if you will, of all of these separate UV islands. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to go over here to my toolbar inside my UV tab, and right here, these are all the Move and Sew tools that are available to us in Modo. Like everything else inside of Modo, it all begins and ends with a selection. Notice that they're all grayed out. Even the with options is all grayed out, because we haven't directed the application to look at a very specific 3D component. It doesn't know what to do yet. So I'm going to select an edge, and I think I want to start with that guy. Now that I have something selected, check it out. All of my tools are now active. This is what we want. So I want to hit the 0 key on my number pad to maximize this view, because I want to show you guys something. Check it out. I selected this edge over here on the left, but on the right, this guy is purple. Why? Well, let me show you why. If you were to look very carefully at what I got going on here, I have two separate polygons that share a common edge. This polygon and that polygon, so these two that make up what will be a little board, share a common edge in this one. So when I select this edge over here, the computer is telling me that, hey, this one over here is also the exact same edge, okay? So I know that that polygon and that polygon are probably going to be connected to each other when I use the move and sew tool. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do it. Now, the move and sew tool was a little confusing for me when I first started learning how to use it. So let me help you decode what some of these options are, because I really didn't get, and I really didn't understand what unselected and average and selected. I didn't understand how they were being applied to the scene and what they were really impacting. So let me show you what's going on. Okay, let's start at the bottom. Okay, with selected. I think this is the best place to illustrate the system that we have going on here. Okay, so if we were to choose selected, the selected edge, this one, would stay exactly where it is, but the unselected edge, and more importantly, the unselected UV island, this guy over here, would move to the selected edge, and they would join. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's just do selected, and check it out. Watch this feller over here. Selected, bam, and now this one right here is connected to this one. They share that edge. They've been sewed together. Okay, let's do another one so I can show you the other options. I'm gonna select this edge. Okay, and the moment I select this top edge, you can see over here on the right that its conjoining twin here, if you will, has also been highlighted. When it's purple, that means it's sharing. That's the shared edge between that polygon and that polygon. Now, last time we did selected, and that's what we got, okay? Well, this time we're going to do unselected. Unselected is the inverse of selected, okay? So instead of moving the unselected polygon or edge to the selected one, the selected polygon is going to move to the unselected, okay? So watch what happens when I choose unselected this time. Yeah, check it out. The unselected polygon stayed exactly where it was inside the UV grid, and the selected shape and all of its friends that were connected to it moved to the unselected edge. So there's our shape. Let me just move it out of the way. There we go. Okay. Now let's do one more. This one right here. We can see it's connected, its conjoining friend down over there. All right. And let's do average this time. Average is going to give you a funky result. I really don't use averaged all that much, but let's just see what happens when we select it. Okay, so it looks like both of them moved and they were connected. Okay, so averaged is going to try to do, it's going to try to figure out the distance between them and kind of split the difference. I've gotten some funky results with average, which is why I try to stray away from it, but I'm sure in certain situations it works well. So let's do one more, and I'm just going to choose selected for this one. So if what's going to happen when I hit selected? Yeah, that's right. This whole UV island is going to stay where it is, and the unselected guy is going to move down here and connect itself to the selected one. So let's do it. Bam. Okay, mission accomplished. Now, I'm sure you guys are like, Pat, why do we have these wonderful little red cubes in the corners? Well, those wonderful little red cubes are not actually wonderful at all, but they do represent overlapping polygons. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if we were to look very closely at this UV map, we have one polygon here, which represents this vertical guy, okay? And then this top one represents that horizontal polygon at the top of my crate. But in the corners, as we see over here, it's red. That means that this polygon and this polygon inside the UV space are sharing the exact same area. The result of this at the texturing stage is that when whatever texture information we put right here inside that red cube is going to be shared by the upper corners of both of these polygons. We generally try to want to stray away from this as much as we can, but in certain situations this is totally cool. Now for what I'm doing, I think I could live with this. It's in a corner. I'm also going to have some pretty healthy grunge maps in the corners, so I think I probably could avoid it and not really worry about it, but just know that whenever you see red polygons inside of your UV map, that means two polygons are going to share the exact same texture information. I've already planned to introduce a video that covers the importance of separating out your UV islands to ensure that you don't get these little red squares up here, and some strategies on what we can use or how we can efficiently use overlapping polygons in certain situations. So look for a video on UV strategies in the future. But this process of combining UV islands together using the move and sew tool allows us to reduce the impact of those texture seams that we'll see in the final design. So the the move and sew tools inside of Modo, extraordinarily powerful and something that we're going to be using quite a lot.